The reason I'm telling you this stuff, it all has to do with believing. There's so many people that have flashbacks and memories. They have past traumas that come and try to haunt them in the night. Friends, if that's happening to you, you don't need as much ministry and prayer as we think. We're going to ministry after ministry. We're going through sessions. You know what I really believe we need to do? It's the truth that makes us free. We need to believe God. And you could be in your bedroom and this feeling of this time and this thing in your life tries to come over you and make you cry and sweat and feel ooky. And man, you need to just sit up in bed right in the middle of that thing trying to come over you and say, Father, I thank you. You've changed my life forever. Like, God, I thank you. I'm a brand new creature. God, your love for me is undeniable because Christ was crucified and hung on the cross. God, I know there was a time in my life I was touched wrong, and that season lasted 5 years. It's tried to eat my lunch, but in you I've been touched so right. New life has come. Those years have nothing to do with who I am laying here in this bed. And I thank you they can't haunt me, can't torment me. I'm not defiled. I'm not a used product. I am a woman of God. I'm a child of God. I'm a son of God. I am yours. And thank you for living. And all of a sudden this thing's coming to break you, and it runs the risk of making you if you're a believer. Come on, it's 2 Corinthians. It's 10. It's like verses 3-5. It's the weapon of your warfare. It's mighty in the breaking down of strongholds. The stronghold is a wrong belief. Taking every thought captive, casting down every thought, every imagination that rises above the knowledge of God, bringing it into obedience and holding it captive according to Christ. So where do you find the truth? In Him. Where do you find your identity? In Him. Where do you find your hope? In Him. Your future? In Him. How do you get free from yesterday? In Him. A new day in Christ Jesus. Did you fail? Did you do wrong? Did you do the thing you knew you'd never do? You say, yeah. Okay, so it comes back to haunt you. 6 months goes by and it almost feels like you're living there. You're driving to work and you're remembering it and it feels like you just did it. Who's that ever happened to? Flashbacks and recollection and memory, and you just feel like you're getting over something, and all of a sudden you relive it or you dream it or you remember it in such a real way where it feels like it just happened. That's not an accident. That happens to people all the time. Who's ever just been doing okay and out of the blue, just weird stuff's going through your mind that you wish wasn't there and you don't know how it got there and you didn't conjure it, but it's there and it ain't going away. Anybody ever have this experience? Anybody be in the middle of worship? So see, we don't want to talk about this stuff, but anybody be in the middle of worship and all of a sudden find for the last 2 minutes they were over here thinking about something that was irrelevant and had nothing to do with the song and worship or God? And when you realize it, you go, yeah. Does that ever happen to anybody? But see, here's what the enemy would love you to do. Process that. Get analytical over that. Wow, we were in the presence of the Lord. This shouldn't have the ability to come through His presence, but the fact that it was in me, am I even in His presence? Is there something that deeply rooted in me that I'm living so unsanctified that this thing has access to me when I'm in a holy place? People do this stuff. I've pastored long enough to know they do this stuff. And they think this way. And they complex it and they run it through about 10 times to get this spiritual analogy that needs to get flushed down your commode. Did I say that in your church? Flush it. I'm not apologizing. It needs flushed. If you flew from Utah just for that, man, flush it. When this stuff comes, you don't have a problem unless you believe what it's implying. When it comes, you have an answer if you believe the finished work of Christ. The fact that the memory bothers you, the fact that you wish you didn't have the flashback, the fact that you're bothered by the thing that just happened during worship means it's not coming out of your heart, you're not conjuring it. It could be recollection, it could be just demonic influence, it could just be like a test, a trap, demonic. When I say influence, not that you're possessed, just stuff. Who knows that the enemy's tracked people and We've had spirits in our lives that had enticed us, things we've given ourselves to, things that are looking to overtake you. If he's roaming around like a roaring lion, there's things observing people's lives. Don't get wigged out by that. Just get secure in truth. Like, who cares? You say, well, I just don't, he's not allowed in my house. You might be amazed that he's just sitting there on that recliner watching you and seeing how you converse with your spouse. If you're getting thoughts in a worship service, he might be in your recliner. He walked into heaven in Job's story. Let's stop getting spiritually weird on some of this stuff. Painting these sanctified theologies. My Bible says if you have self-centeredness in your heart, every evil work is present. You bind him and rebuke him all day long, and then you live in selfishness, and you're the actual landing strip and platform for his entry. It's James chapter 3. It's Bible. It says it's where there's envy and self-seeking, every evil work is present. So you're praying for your spouse because you're hurt by your spouse. Not because you're hurting for your spouse, you're hurt by your spouse. And you just had a hoe-down, throw-down mouth battle with your spouse. And now you're in the bedroom. Father, I bind you, devil, and I rebuke you. And you need to change that man. You need to change that woman. And God, I thank you right now for your sanctifying power. It watches over me, keeps me untouched by their filthy words and their frustration. God, you need to wreck them, knock them off their high horse. And you think you're praying. And hordes of evil things are going, whoa, this landing strip is wide open. They're just landing everywhere. And that's why it's so confusing, and that's why it's so frustrating, and that's why people, when nobody's looking, banging their head on the drywall, screaming and doing things they wouldn't do if people were watching. Oh, man. There's bitter envy and self-seeking. Every evil work is present. You can rebuke all day long. If you don't change your motive, you're the invite. And then because you are self-centered, you get deceived into this. God, why haven't you answered my prayer? I've been praying to you for months now. You ain't changed her. You ain't changed him. How come you're letting me go through all this hell? What did I do to deserve this? God, this ain't right. You need to change this person or I can't do it anymore. And now you're even mad at God because he ain't answering your prayer. Now he's a problem too. It's not just your spouse, it's God. Hello? At some point you got to go, duh. This has become all about me. Self-righteous and deceived. Don't know how to love her, don't know how to love him, and don't know how to love him. Ooh, are we